Council has been working tirelessly to get you all these fabulous, inspiring speakers. I highly recommend checking out the calendar. If you have signed up for one event, we were originally saying, just sign up for one and then we'll see. At this point, feel free to double sign up, triple sign up. And if we end up having an issue with signups, we'll approach you, and we're trying to record as many of these as possible so people can listen to them like podcasts, so you can digest the whole series, which I would highly recommend because there's already been some amazing conversations and we are just starting night 2. So without further ado, I am so grateful for Ayanna's time tonight, and I'm excited to introduce her. She is the Communications and Outreach Manager for the Office of Women's Advancement for the City of Boston. She is a champion of youth activism and civic engagement. She comes to Boston by way of Atlantic City, New Jersey, demonstrating a long-standing commitment as a community leader. Her life as an activist began as the NAACP College Chapter President for the Stockton University, where she graduated with a Bachelor of Arts degree in Literature and specialization in digital literacy. In her 10 years of local and state leadership in the New Jersey State Conference of the NAACP, Ayanna was considered an advocate for intergenerational involvement in public change, education, health, voter empowerment, and criminal justice. During her tenure at the New Jersey SCNAACP Youth Works Chair, she diligently worked with adult branches, college chapters, and youth units to organize their Get Out the Vote efforts across the state. Ayanna is a creator of the My Voice, My Vote voter education series, which focuses on first-time voters and high school students who are close to voting age. Its purpose is to empower young voters to make informed decisions at the ballot box and learn how to be an active citizen past Election Day. As a regional lead of the NAACP Next Gen Alumni Council, Ayanna supports other young adults in upholding the organization's national Get Out the Vote strategy, community engagement efforts, and internal development of fellows in the NAACP Next Gen Professional Leadership Program. In 2019, Ayanna was appointed to Mayor Marty Walsh's Spark Council as a representative of the Dorchester neighborhood. Take a look at the calendar. We have a Spark training coming up. She continues to create opportunities for millennials and Gen Z residents to become owners of the civic process in her involvement as community chair of the Boston's New Leaders Council, an innovator in progressive thought leadership. Ayanna also serves as social action co-chair of the Boston Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. She looks forward to furthering her message of activism with her mantra, which I love: being an activist means you are an active part of the solution, no matter how big or small. Equity is not a spectator sport. So I am so excited to dive into this. I want to let everybody know that we're going to start. Ayanna is going to share a little bit about her story, what inspires her, how she has come to this point, and then we'll open it up for questions. Once we do that, feel free to use the raise the hand feature, and then Shannon or I will call on you. You can unmute yourself, or you can put your question in the chat just to keep things easy. And we're on until 7:30 with a little buffer time. So I'll just keep an eye on the time, but I put the floor to you, Ayanna. Thank you so much for being here.
Yes, thank you so much, Caitlin. And thank you to everyone from Junior League in Boston. I'm really excited to have the opportunity to come speak to you, to share my story and listen to you all. I love being in conversation with folks. So this is a great opportunity to just get to know me and me to get to know you. So thank you so much for having me here. So when I think about, my story, because I think storytelling is really important when we're talking about not only the civic process, but anything that we're passionate about, because I believe that a lot of the legislation and a lot of the movements that we see, they're personal, right? So when I think about what led me to this point right here, right now, speaking on Zoom with you all, I think about myself as a young girl. And I think about all the women that I looked up to that got me excited about what a leader looked like. And even though might not have had the language for it, I knew that I wanted to just, put all of my creative energy into making like a world that I wanted to see, right? So I think about, being young and growing up in South Jersey and having my mother as a very, very big role model for me and a lot of others. My mother, her name is Dr. Shawn Donaldson. She's teaching at Stockton University for all of my life, even before. And she's taught me so much about how to kind of stand up in your morals and your values and kind of speak to that and what that looks like. Because I know a lot of times as women, those traits are things that we have to kind of pick up and kind of pick pieces apart and learn as we meet other women or see other examples. But I know that, having her in my life from the beginning was a great thing, because I know she taught me kind of, if something's wrong, say something, think of others, speak up for others. If you have an idea, offer it. It could be a solution for someone else. And also, don't even just think about your story, but think about others and how sometimes if you're going to lead, considering everyone that's going to be not behind you, but around you. So, as I got older, I was just one of those kids who liked to be involved. I did stained glass club, student council. I did all that stuff because I just wanted to be active and creative. But I would say my passion when it came to civic engagement really came in high school. I know as a teenager, you're kind of like trying to figure out, life and what's going on. But I knew what was something that really sparked for me was the fact that I knew, at least in my high school, there were
I think you may have gone on mute just for 10 seconds.
Yeah, I don't know how that happened, but it's okay. But there, all the young men were running for things, and they said, Ayanna, I think you should try it. And I'm like, maybe, but why? Why would I be, why would you consider me a leader? Why would I be a president, vice president, or anything like that? But, people said when you say something, people listen. And that always stuck with me because I know a lot of times people can, post things on social media or, speak at certain places, but I always knew that whatever I said had to have some kind of intention. And anytime that I spoke, I thought about it and made sure that anything that I said included the opinions of those around me. And I couldn't speak to what that meant as like being a leader, but I knew that that was an innate quality that needed to be around. And I'm just the kind of person to speak up. So that was like my first taste of what a civic process looks like to run for an office. And even with that taught me how you can kind of come together with a group of people, create ideas and make a better space for others. So, going into college, got involved with the NAACP, and that was a very transformational experience for me. I've learned a lot about different community issues. I learned the language around the things that I was feeling. And, dating myself, I think I'm on a call with the majority millennials, I would say. So, we all grew up in a time where, looking at where we are now, a lot of the social unrest was starting to bubble up about the time that we were all in college. And I had a particular moment where I was pulled over by police with my friends, and we were just walking from one end of the dorm parking lot to the other because we just didn't want to walk. It was cold. It was kind of snowy like it is now. And we were pulled over by the township police, and it was like my heart just stopped the whole time. And I thought about all the other stories I had seen on the news, and I know that being in college and being an activist and, talking about certain issues, you kind of have an aesthetic distance until it happens to you. And then it becomes real. And in that moment, I really thought about like, could I have walked instead? I was just like, am I going to walk away from this? And even it was just the interrogation was just like, they didn't believe that we were even students, even though we had the sweatshirts, everything. And it was just in that moment, I just felt so powerless and so afraid. And even though I had all of the leadership skills and passion about all these things, it was just like, it was real for me in that moment. And in that, after it was over, they just said, oh, don't speed, even though we were going 2 miles an hour because it was icy. I just remember saying to myself, I never want anyone to feel that way again. Whether it be me, my family, my friends, someone I don't even know, no one should ever feel in danger for their life for any reason like that. So that was really the driving force for me to stick to it. Since then, as Caitlin said in my bio, I've stuck with the NAACP for over a decade, local, state, national leadership, because I know that folks need to see that young people want to speak up and they want to be heard. And I think especially now, going through the turbulent year that we had in 2020, more people have woken up to the civic process and understanding that it's not just about the people that are in the office, but it's about the people who elect them in that office. And how do you hold them accountable afterwards? So with me now, I feel as though the current job that I have now with MOA is wonderful. It's a dream come true. There are not many offices, government offices, whether they be local, federal, what have you, that are dedicated to gender equity. And I felt like that was a unique space for me to bring my skills and bring my passion to make sure, at least, in the realm where we are in Boston, that women feel seen, that they feel heard. And since I've been in the office since May, it's been quite a time since the pandemic, I will say. City Hall is my living room, but I've made so many connections and met so many people and heard so many stories about, what Boston's women are going through. And what I love about where we are now with our office, because, for us, our goal is to undo systemic barriers for gender equity. And that's economic equity, representation, and safety. And when I think about those three things, I think about, one, how we've already defined Boston's women, right? Because a lot of times people don't see themselves in that. And that's why a lot of people didn't even know about our office. But, when I come in and I say, look, this is what we have, this is what we are, but we also need you here with us. I think the fact that our office is being, we're open, but I'm intentional about hearing about folks and hearing stories that we haven't maybe touched on, different initiatives that we haven't unearthed at this point. So I think we're in a very creative and progressive space for us to really be there for Boston's women and create true gender equity and, and do what we need to do. So I know, for one, if anyone ever has an idea about something that they want to see through my office, more than welcome to talk to any of you. And I'm happy during the question and answer to kind of dialogue about that, because I think empowering all of you, and in turn, you can empower the community around you. I know Junior League already does it through all of the volunteerism and the things you do. And I think that's so important. And we can work together to make sure that we can create the environment that we want to see, rather. So yeah, I'll kind of stop there because I'm very conversational. So it's weird for me to just kind of like talk at you. So if anyone has questions, we can kind of go from there and we can chat more. And I would love, even if when you speak and have a question, if you want to share about yourself, that'd be awesome too.
Just a reminder to use the raised hand feature as you come up with questions. And it looks like we have one right away. Hillary, go for it.
Thank you for sharing your story. As you listen to hear all these women, and I'm so glad that there's someone to listen to so many Boston women, how do you, is government the sort of thing where like the squeaky wheel gets the grease? Or like, how do you decide where to direct your energies? Like, because I can only imagine there's a lot coming in. How in the
Yes.
world do you look for themes? Like, what's a little bit about your approach in it?
So for me, especially with this past year, what I've done is I've looked at what we currently have and I say, okay, these are our main policy pillars, right? And then I say, okay, this is what we've done. What's missing? Or what else can I bring to the table? Or, I remember this one, woman entrepreneur that was talking to me about the issues that she has when I purchased something from her a couple of weeks ago. How can I make sure that she gets the resources that she needs? So when I think about programming and how to kind of direct that energy, I try to think about how can I make it fit and can I do something feasible? Because when I think about it, our office is only 4 people. I'll be real. It's only 4 people. So we are doing a lot of transformational work around childcare, doing emergency childcare for essential workers. We also have a childcare entrepreneur fund. We have a data survey that we do to make sure we're collecting information to know how the childcare industry shows up. And that's just our childcare work. That's one piece of our economic equity, portfolio, if you will. So when I think about if I want to do something new, I have to think about, one, do we have the capacity to do it immediately as is? And if we don't have the space for it, who can we collaborate with? I know a lot of times we rely heavily on our community partners to either help support legislation that the administration supports, or we try to find those coalitions to get things moving. So if I can't immediately do it, I usually say, like if someone comes to me and says, hey, you should look into this, I'll also ask, okay, do you know people in the community you could refer me to? Do you know any organizations? Let's work together. And then from there, I'll try to find like a department that is aligned with whatever that is. And I try to like put them all together and to see if we can't immediately do it, we can try to bring you in and connect you to in some way to make it possible.
That makes a lot of sense. All right, looks like we have another hand raised. Ashley, go for it.
Thanks, Caitlin. And thank you, Ayanna, for being here. I think your work is fascinating, incredibly important, more important now than ever, perhaps. I've been reading lots of articles calling this sort of the pink recession, COVID, post-COVID, the she session I saw recently elsewhere too. And I've been thinking a lot about, myself in a manager role, really doing some critical self-reflection on how I can advocate, not just for myself as a woman, but for the women next to me in my immediate sphere of influence. And so when we're thinking about, the disproportionate impact COVID has had on employed moms, women generally, who often tend to take on these caregiver roles and are managing the welfare of their household in addition to working, what are things that, from your perspective, like you have this unique perspective in your work, what are things that we can be thinking about, to advocate for our colleagues and peers in the workplace? Is that, flex work schedules? Is that different options for maternity leave? Is that childcare? Like what are the things that I as a manager can be doing to be more supportive of those women around me?
Yes, and that's a great question, and I'm happy that you asked that because it shows that you want to show up for them and treat them like humans, and know that through this whole pandemic, people have shifted their lives completely, right? I know for a fact on my team, well, now half of our team are mothers, right? So a lot of times we've got to kind of ask those questions and say, hey, are you doing more of the caregiving in the morning versus the afternoon? Is there something that we have to schedule around? Like we ask those questions of each other because immediately for us, we're a small team, so we can kind of do that. But I think in a lot of workplaces, especially where we are now in COVID, some spaces are really showing grace around what their employees need so they can be the best. So what I would say is directly just ask them like where they are with things, survey, even if it's like a retreat, ask those questions and figure out if it's something that you can immediately do for your team or something at large. Because I know with, at least under the lens of our office, we have a partnership with the Boston Women's Workforce Council. And that is an entity with about 250 100% talent compact signers that are committed to creating equitable workplaces throughout Boston. They also supply their employee data so we can research the wage gap in Boston. So that's how we come out with our reports. That's how we know, how much women make versus, in Boston versus nationally, which unfortunately at this point, according to the data, we are a little behind. But we also have the opportunity to talk to these signers and more people, and the community at large about the practices that some people have taken to make sure that their workplace is an equitable space, and that they're closing those gender and racial wage gaps, and just making it a more suitable environment for folks to thrive. Because like you said, we are in a recession. In December, I think we had 141,000 women leave the workforce in 1 month nationally, 1 month. And it's been trending like nobody's business. And it breaks my heart every time I see the numbers, because like you said, most women in this country are in service type industries where they're, where if you take that pay away and then you have children, it's like, what are you going to do? So it's a real, like, a whole ecosystem of things that I'm hopeful that things will evolve. But I know for you, Ashley, if you're thinking about your team and how you can show up for them, I would say, ask and see what you can do immediately. But if there's space to, hold the company accountable and say, look, this is what my team needs. I know that it's not just us, ask other managers and maybe come together and figure out if there's a way to have a meeting with leadership to see how they can show up for your team.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That's so important. It's a good reminder for sure. Thanks, Ashley. Any other questions to keep us going here? Anybody have any other thoughts they want to share?
I have a question. Sorry, I was trying to figure out how to put the hand up.
Oh, no worries. Just jump in.
No, so I had a question when it comes to I guess transparency to what the government office is working on. Like, I feel like me as a just regular person, I'm not really sure what different offices are working on. Is that are they on websites that we can see oh, these are initiatives for this year? I'm not, if you have any clarity on that.
Yeah, sure. So, and I know when I first moved to Boston, I didn't know up from down from what was going on. But the one thing I do appreciate about the city, and specifically with my office, we make sure that we put everything online, especially in this environment, because we know that's how people are accessing information, or at least more people are. So if you ever have questions about anything that's going on in the city, I would say go to the city website, boston.gov. They always constantly update, especially around coronavirus and other updates about what's going on right now, from snow removal to funding opportunities. They're always being posted. So I would just say, if you go to the website and if you want to go by department, you can kind of look around and say, okay, that's something that it might fall under. And I'll always put out, if anyone ever has a question about something and might need direction about it, you're more than welcome to reach out to me. I know folks reach out to our office all the time, email or phone, it's all right there. So you can just give us a ring and just let us know if there's something that you need direction around, and we can match you up with who you need. But it's definitely a process with trying to get to that information. And I know sometimes with learning, either learning about a community that you just moved to, or somewhere that you've been for a long time and you just want to know what's going on, there's sometimes like I said earlier, that aesthetic distance where you're just like, okay, it's over there and I'm over here and I don't know what they're doing, but it's always in the news and I don't know what's going on. So I would say the website. Also, now that everything is virtual too, I think it's great that you could attend public meetings, and they talk a lot about what's going on in specific spaces, and maybe something might be going on in your neighborhood. I know the Office of Neighborhood Services is really great because they have liaisons and representatives for every neighborhood in the city. So that might be a great start, because the representative for your neighborhood might be able to tell you specifically what's going on that might directly impact you and your neighborhood, and also elevate different resources, different funding opportunities, and everything like that. So if something's going on, more than likely that neighborhood department will have that information.
I never knew about the neighborhood department. I'm just on their website now. That's amazing. That's great to know. All right, looks like Hillary, you've got another question. Go for it.
I know the name. So the name of your office, the Mayor's Office of Women's Advancement. How do you, obviously we're going to have a new mayor, and like there's a lot going on, exciting things going on with Boston's next mayor. How much of your overall mission is really driven by what a particular mayor says versus like the mission of your office? Will you have to shift? Are you going to take into account the new things coming? Like, how do you guys decide we're going to be consistent in this, or we'll take influence from our next mayor?
Yeah, so that's something that a lot of departments are going through right now. Whenever there's an administration change, a lot of times if someone is passionate about something, they will more than likely speak to our office and tell us, like, this is an initiative we want you to take on, or something like that. Because I know with our office, we were started in 2014 by Mayor Walsh. And, he came in and thought that, making sure that there was economic equity for women was very important to him. And that's the reason why the Boston Women's Workforce Council had started up. And a lot of that's kind of like the start of how our office started to form. So now that we're in a space where we're transitioning, I look at the work that we've done, and I think a lot of it has made it a really positive impact on Boston. I think, especially with the Child Care Entrepreneur Fund, that's something that I'm really proud about. And it's something that I haven't seen in other cities, where we create a fund just for family childcare providers in order to run their businesses, because we understand the childcare industry is largely, especially in Boston, largely women of color, largely immigrant. And these are the folks that have been marginalized historically here and beyond. So creating those small pieces to make sure that that not only they're sustained as a business, but we're creating opportunities for children to have safe spaces. I think that's beautiful. And I don't foresee anyone having qualms with that. So I think, looking at, the current state of everything, whenever, the next mayor is named, it's just going to be a conversation of saying, okay, this is what we currently do. I think that possibly you should, evolve around this, change this. And then that conversation comes. But ultimately, either way, we're here for our residents. And I think that at this point, we can only grow. So, I'm just being optimistic and just keeping it going forward. So
that's very important. I didn't even think about that, Hillary. That's really good. And we've got your back on that one. So we'll be your constituents to continue to say this. We want more. All right, Lindsay, it looks like you have a question. Go ahead.
Hi, Ayanna. Thanks for being here tonight. I work in communications, and so I have a couple questions just about like the profession and kind of your insight from it. I actually used to manage communications for the Women in Public Policy program at Harvard, so I'm really familiar with your office's work. But I'm now not at that center, but I still am at Harvard, and I have found communications in the last year, like it is just now what could have been a 24/7 job before is just really now around the clock, because just the increase in demand and need for communications in a remote world. But I've also found engagement has also increased too in a lot of new ways. So I'm just wondering kind of what you're seeing in your role and kind of how you've been managing it professionally and personally.
That is such a good question, and I appreciate that. As a fellow comms person, thank you for keeping that in mind. Let's see. So for us, yes, engagement has definitely gone up when it comes to digital because of where we are right now. I love the fact that with technology, we're in an innovative space because we're not bound to, the four walls that we live in. I could go to a talk, across the country and just be in my living room. So I think that's the beauty of what's going on here. There's a lot of information sharing and a lot of, calling people in for unique opportunities that they might not have heard about if they were, going somewhere after work or something like that. So when I think about the communications and the kind of like the engagement around my office right now, for one, I try to organize it around, what's going on for the office, and I try to schedule out as much as we can. But I know, especially right now, things can change as a drop of a hat. So I just try to stay on top of it. I have notifications on my phone going off all the time, but I do keep my do not disturb on so I can keep my peace as well. Got to have balance. But I know we definitely get more like direct messages from Instagram, Facebook, Twitter for folks just asking questions or saying, oh, we like this. Or I've even had different community organizations reach out to us via Instagram. And that led to a lot of our folks that presented during our Women Entrepreneur Boston Week. So I love it because, naturally, as a comms person, I love, I'm just on social media, but now I love communicating with people where they're at. And I think sometimes for others, it's like, let's go through a formal, email me, call the office. But if that's how folks see MOA and they want to get to know me or get to know the office or they have a question, I am very responsive in that sense. So I think it's kind of been our office's superpower during the pandemic because we have a willingness to translate whatever we have to the bites that people can take and meeting them where they're at. Because, a lot of folks don't know about our office, but if we post something or something happens and they see it and they want to know more, who would I be to not respond? So I think I've been able to get a lot of people to know what's going on just by social media and, posting videos of our virtual events and scheduling the Facebook events because people will see that and it's like, oh, okay. Because, sometimes you're just randomly scrolling and you see something that's interesting. So I think it's really sparked a lot of visibility around the office. So going forward, I just try to lean in there. And when we start to, transition back and we're, hybrid or we're back to a more traditional model, I know I'm definitely going to hold on to this digital social media piece because I think it's really important on how we communicate with the community at large.
Great. All right, Shalina, we've got you. Go for it.
Hi, Ayanna. Thank you for being here. So my question for you has to do with, so I know given the last few months, the political climate has put a big spotlight on women in government roles at all levels. And so, being in the Office of Women's Advancement, how do you guys bring that conversation to the forefront of bringing women to the table where decisions are being made? And compared to other cities, I don't know if you would know this, but how do you see the Boston level government makeup between women and others?
Mm-hmm. So to make sure that I heard the question correctly,
yeah.
Are you asking about kind of like demographic makeup of leadership or how we advocate for women to take leadership? Or
yeah, I think two parts. So I'm curious, does Boston do you see it having more women than other governments? And I'm not sure if you guys have statistics on that. And then the second part is, does your office have those initiatives to bring women into those roles, or at least encourage women to come to the table and take on government roles?
Gotcha. Okay. So I'll start with the latter and work back. So with our office, we don't have anything explicit that says, hey, this is this training tool or mechanism that we create a pipeline for government leadership. But what we do is through our representation piece, we make sure that we engage women in different arenas through our other, either initiatives, events, or we do, different speaking engagements like this one, where we kind of talk about our office. And we, always lift up the fact that, and this is one thing that I'm proud about, the fact that I work in women's advancement. My chief is a woman. My director's a woman. I'm around a lot of women, and that's strong and empowering within itself. So, and looking at the other departments, I know there's a lot of women leadership, especially like, for example, small business, the director, Natalia Urtubey. She's awesome. She helps us with our WeBoss work, and she's phenomenal. We've got a new director of civic engagement. That's a woman. Even my new director, Alexandra Valdez, she just came in, and a lot of us are young and excited and women of color. And, we just want to, be innovative. And I think all of us kind of carry the spirit of calling people in and sharing these opportunities. So I know, for example, for me personally, through my work, we usually have a monthly newsletter where we send things out, and I make sure that I add like the job postings that are available from the city. And I intentionally make sure that I pick things that, one, women may not think of themselves in, or something that might not be a traditional quote unquote woman's role, because I know a lot of times when someone talks about an opening being somewhere, it might be more junior, or it might be something that, just like, oh, I think she might be a good clerk typist. Nothing against clerk typists or administrative folks, because I think they are the gas that keeps the engine moving. But a lot of times with outreach, some things can be gendered, right? So I know for my office, if anything's ever open, if it's a director spot or something, I know there was something even about managing a golf course somewhere. I don't know. There was something strange, but I was like, I'm putting it in there because I want to give women a fair shot at applying for anything that might match their skills, or something they might not think about matching their skills. Because I know when I came into this office, and I kind of have a funny story about how I got to city government, I actually took the salary negotiation workshop that my office offers. And I remember sitting there and taking the notes, and I'm like, okay, this is good. And, taking the tips and the notes and all that fun stuff. And then when my position opened, I was like, okay, I kind of went for it. And I learned about it because I got the newsletter. And I remember going to the interview and using the same skills that they taught me. And it just all worked full circle. So it's really about, and my outgoing director, Tanya Del Rio, she was awesome. And every time that I spoke with her, she was very empowering, and even gave me tips on how to kind of present, how to, just be a leader in that space, especially in this COVID reality. So I think there's a lot of great women that work for the city of Boston that want to bring more great talent in. So, it's just about getting to know us, and we try to just plug as many people in as possible, because we know that there's room for more, especially right now. It's, I know we've heard of the year of the woman. I don't think it's a year, it's forever. It's not going anywhere. So.
Absolutely great. That's a really good question. Have anybody else?
Hi, Ayanna. Thanks for being here tonight. I have a question, just thinking about like how to get involved within the city of Boston. Feels a little intimidating, to be honest, and overwhelming. Like, I think I feel really comfortable working with the Junior League and kind of going that way. But as you know, you being here tonight is very inspirational, and just kind of like getting to know more. Like, I agree with Caitlin. Like, I didn't even know there was that neighborhood piece. Like, I've lived in Boston for 10 years. So embarrassingly, I feel like I should know that. So just curious, like, what is the best way, you know, to, I think, love what your office is doing. How do we best support that in small ways or bigger ways? Like, what would kind of your advice be there to get more involved?
So if you want to get involved with my office, you can always, one, reach out, because I know, for example, I had a group reach out to me and just said, hey, I want to, you know, I just want to get to know your office. I saw it online and I want to learn more. From that discussion, it turned into us doing a series of programming. So it's really about just reaching out, to be honest. We're always looking to collaborate. But I would say at large, if you want to kind of get involved with city government and get to know, you know, the ins and outs, what's going on. The one thing that introduced me as well, besides the salary negotiation workshop, the one thing that really got me hooked on learning more about the city and getting civically engaged here was the Spark Boston Council. The Spark Council is awesome. It's a great experience where I was in a council of 40 people. And throughout the year, we met with different department heads, got to know what they were doing, what the projects were. They asked us questions, we gave recommendations. And then from there, we created kind of like civic engagement events and projects and initiatives that align with those offices so we can support their work as well. So I think Spark Boston is a great start if you're looking for an opportunity to, you know, get to know city government, and also kind of get to know different people in the neighborhood. So I've met people from, you know, from Dorchester, Eastie, all over the place. So that was a great starting point for me. But I know I think neighborhood services, I will sing their praises all the time, because they also get people connected to different volunteering opportunities as well. Who else? Parks Department also has a lot of great programming. Even at this time, I know they have like a winter workout series. There's something for everybody. So I would just say, you know, peruse the website. You know, when you find a department that you think might pique your interest, go on their social media. They might be posting about different events, or really you could just kind of reach out to them, because a lot of people are really receptive to listen to constituents, because that's what we're here for, right? So I would just say reach out. And even if like you hit a roadblock, like I said, you can always reach out to me, and I'd be more than happy to kind of match you up, or, you know, connect you with somebody who might pique your interest and your passions.
Great, thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
That was a great question. And I will let everybody know that we have a training and information session on Spark Boston on March 25th. So if you are inspired, as I'm sure you all will be, after tonight and after the series, take a look at that. It's on the calendar, so you can sign up and you can bring a friend that's not a league member. So feel free to share it around with all of your people. Do we have any other questions? I have some questions, but I want to make sure everybody here has a chance. Just along the lines of what Lauren was saying as an individual, what about an organization? You know, the Junior League of Boston is taking on a lot of the issues that your office takes on, and we're kind of planting our advocacy seeds right now. I mean, we've planted them, now we're tending to them and we're growing them. But it is still, it's newer for our league. And I wonder if you have some examples of like, here's some organizations in the city of Boston that just like kill it at this. And here's things really don't work, or that you see people trying to advocate and it's not successful, and this is why. I don't know if you have any observations around that, but I'd love to hear it.
Let's see. So let me think. You definitely bring to mind, we are part of a coalition called the Common Start Coalition. And that is the space where we really hammer out our kind of our policy advocacy around childcare, for example, right? So we'll meet and we talk about like the policy happenings that are going through the State House. We meet with people throughout the Commonwealth, so we don't just stay Boston specific. But with working in government, whoever is the mayor usually has a legislative agenda on the things that they support. So with our community partners, we may ask them to join in and support it, with us supporting a certain issue. Like, for example, a few years ago, we were one of the offices or entities that really advocated for the Roe Act for equal pay. So we reached out to a number of organizations that we knew aligned, did the research, looked at their website, had conversations about, hey, are you interested in this? Do you support this bill? And we came together and made sure that we stood up and said, we support this. And in turn with that, since it aligned with the mayor's legislative agenda, we got a letter of support in order to say that we support the Roe Act. And then from there came law for Massachusetts. So that's one small example, but I would say, and sidebar, I really love the plant analogy. As a plant mom, I appreciate that. But what I would say as an organization who's looking to really kind of deepen their roots in advocacy, I think really just looking at where you are, what you want to support, and then look at what's going on either in city government or state government and say, okay, that's a bill that aligns with us. We want to support that. So looking for partners to kind of coalition build to make a larger statement to say, we support this, or even if it's just creating programming around an issue just to raise awareness using your social media. I think those are really great tools to show what you support, how you support it, and calling others in to rally with you to see the goal. Because I think when folks come together in the name of something, it's something beautiful. So especially women, because I think we're so integral to how things work. That's how people come into this world. That's how people learn how to navigate this world. So if that's who we are, and that's how important we are to just how folks navigate, we can definitely come together to say that we want this for our communities. So it's really about just kind of like just saying, okay, this is where we are, this is what we want, looking at what's going on out there, finding how it matches, and finding other people who feel the same way. I know a lot of times I tend to simplify a lot because I feel as though, a lot of times I can be very cerebral and think about overthinking, who should I reach out to? But at the end of the day, it's really like, look, I feel the same way you do. Let's come together and make sure everybody knows how we feel, so that more people who say, yeah, me too, they can join us.
That's really helpful. It's important to remember that when we kind of are getting in, to continue my plant analogy, into the weeds.
There you go.
Do we have any other questions? I'm curious about the group. Is anyone here a Boston or even Massachusetts native? No one. So this leads me to my question, which is, you're from New Jersey originally, right? Yeah. And I'm curious, coming to Boston, I feel like the junior league in general tends to be a lot of transplants that have decided to make their professional lives, in the city of Boston or around it. And I feel like sometimes we as a group lack a little bit of the history behind the city, or maybe just, and I should speak for myself. I feel sometimes, as a transplant, I just kind of like, what is going on? What is this city? Was there anything that you could just share was just maybe shocking, or in a good way, in a bad way, about something that broke down what you thought the city of Boston was, and something else revealed itself? I'm just curious.
Yeah, I'll definitely say when I told people I was moving here, they said, where? Are you sure? It's cold. Definitely got that first. And yes, it is true. It is cold, but I accept that. I've taken that on the chin since I've been up here. But I know when I first ended up moving to Boston, I know I had a couple of hesitations because I know historically Boston has a reputation to be very frosty, and not just in temperature, but in demeanor, but also, you know, a very storied, marginal, like polarizing racial history. So I know that at first I was kind of like holding my breath, like I don't know what I'm walking into. But I'm also one of those people that I try to not come in with too many expectations. So that way I kind of don't taint the lens of what I see around me. So I know when I first moved here, I didn't know anybody. I was about to make a Mean Girls reference, but I'm not even going to go there. But, you know, I was just here and I was just like, okay, well, if I'm here, I need to know people and I need to kind of know my environment. So from there, I just found different events online. I got to know some great people. And, you know, from here, there, they said, oh, well, there's something going on. Why don't you come here with me? I know, specifically speaking to my experience, I found a lot of Black professionals that were in the area that kind of had that experience where it was a rough transition to get to Boston. So kind of creating that community and saying, okay, do you know where to go? Do you know, this is, you know, these are the neighborhoods. Are you looking for, you know, somewhere to eat, you know, those small things. And I think the way that the community showed up for me to make sure that I was safe and that I knew where things were and that I felt comfortable and that I can navigate was a great thing. So I know a lot of folks, no matter what their background is, might have a difficult transition into any new space and may be like apprehensive about engaging because it's like, okay, well, I'm not from here. I just work here and I go to work and I close my laptop and then I'm done, right? But I wanted to make sure if I'm going to be here, I wanted to be immersed in the place that I'm in. So I was just very intentional about getting to know people, going to random things that I didn't even know might pique my interest, might not. But I think it really led to me not only getting to where I am now, but it really helped me develop myself as a communicator and a leader and help me really get to know people as people. Because I think a lot of times, especially in these days, there's so much going on where we have a hesitancy to really connect because we have a fear that there might be some implied something or other that will keep us apart, or you're probably not going to have the same point of view as me because we grew up in different places, or we have different industries, or we are different races, or we have different classes. But when I come into different spaces, I try to just say, you know what, I'm going to act like that is not there. I'm going to get to know the individuals in the room. And yes, I'm not going to say that it's not present, but I've just tried to connect with people and make that common thread that we both want better. So why can't we just do that? So I guess just being that kid that says, hey, you want to play? Okay, sure. So like I said, I've been one of those kids forever. So I think just asking those questions, going to random things and meeting people where they're at is the key.
Yeah. I always have to push myself to be the person that says, hey, you want to play? I'm that's hard for me. So it's good to hear, a reminder to get out there. And I just think for our organization in particular, I mean, we want to be your biggest fans, your supporters behind all of your initiatives. So definitely lean on us and we'll be there to support you. I think we have another question. Go ahead, Justine.
Actually, I have a follow-up question. So I grew up in New Jersey as well. So I'm wondering where you grew up. New to the city. Also, people thought I was kind of crazy for moving here. I'm Hispanic background, so same things, like not good. I keep getting warnings of like, oh, like be careful in Boston, all these things. And unfortunately, like I just moved here in the summer, so started my new company virtually. By looking at my company virtually, like it is kind of true there's not that much diversity there. So like I guess like how long did it take you to feel like comfortable living in Boston? I know I know like being virtual, it's going to take me a lot longer. Like I haven't been able to meet anyone yet, but once things get back to normal, just wondering like how long that transition takes.
So first answer, I was raised in Pleasantville, and before I moved up here, I lived in Mays Landing, so Atlantic County, so south. Okay. So where are you from?
North Jersey, so like 30 minutes outside of New York City, like by Newark, New Jersey.
Okay, yeah, I know Essex and Hudson very well. So what I will say, Justine, it will take some time, especially because it's COVID and there are restrictions. A lot of us are inside. But what I will say is to find that comfort, it's really about one, just kind of saying, okay, I'm here and this is where I live, and not just where I live, this is where I work, this is where I am. So when I usually kind of reflect, because I'm one of those people who like to talk to myself, when I say this is where I am, I feel very present, right? So when I think about that am part, I reflect on how I would want to feel comfortable in my space. And I think about, okay, if I need an extra pillow, I'm going to buy it. If I want to, make friends, I think about, okay, where can I find something? So I relied on social media. I searched hashtags. I found, like if I've met one person, I would ask them, okay, what else is going on? I would ask them for recommendations. So what I would say in a COVID world, really looking at, I'm just trying to think about translating this to COVID. So forgive me, Justine. What I will say is you can reach out to me too. And I can definitely connect you to things that I know that I love, and help you out with that. Because I know that can be tough. And I know I'm trying to think of something immediate, but outside of just kind of like searching for hashtags and looking for accounts to find events, because that can be laborsome, especially if you've been on Zoom all day, right? So I'd love to help you find some folks. So just let me know.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Yeah, and just from a junior league perspective on that too, I had no idea until maybe my 6th or 7th year in the league that the majority of our junior league members were not from around here. I always thought I was the one in the room that was new. And we do have a transfer program for people that transfer for different leagues, but a lot of our new members are new to the city and they join because they're new to the city. And so I just want you to know that you're certainly not alone in the league as well. So I highly encourage you to reach out, maybe join the mentorship program if you're interested. I know it's hard. The social committee has been doing such an amazing job with all the events. And I have to say, I was, I think the first one I did was probably in September. I was like, how is this possibly going to work? We're on Zoom, and I had like an awesome night with ladies in our own little, what do they call it? Zoom rooms, breakout rooms. And they were all women I had never met, even though I had been in the league forever. So hopefully there's some stuff that you can always reach out to me as well, and the training council. And I can relate to how hard it is coming into the new city. And then during COVID, it's just like, oh my gosh. I don't know if anybody else has any other thoughts on that or any other questions. We're a little past our time, but we could probably fit in one more if you've got a burning question or thought. Awesome. Well, I have to say this has been such a great night of learning, and I truly hope that our connection to your office just grows stronger, and we want to be there. We want to be your army to get this stuff done and to support all the amazing initiatives that you have going on. And we'll definitely circulate this recording with our large member base, and to encourage everybody to I feel that the biggest thing is learn, right? I feel like we've all just learned so much tonight about what you do and about what the city does. It's amazing. Sometimes how little we know. And I feel like then we can really get on board and help and be there to empower all of the things that you guys are doing.
Yes, and again, thank you so much for inviting me here. I know when I first heard about Junior League through Courtney Scruggs, I was kind of in love with the fact that you're so committed to volunteerism and, you know, creating that space for women. So I'm more than happy and excited to work with you all. I will figure out a way. Like I said, I meet people all the time, and if you say that you're passionate about the same thing I'm passionate about, I will find a way to work with you. So this is not the last time that we see each other. So don't worry. If you need anything, I know I said it 1,000 times. I'm super accessible. You can make sure that you can email me, ayanna.polk@boston.gov. And we can set up a time to chat about some things that you might be interested in, or if you have any questions about how the civic process works in Boston, or just want to know if there's a service or a fund or some kind of initiative or something, more than happy to direct you in the way that you need.
Awesome, great. And we've got some ladies on this call right now that are working very hard on some gender parity events and training. So we'll keep you in the loop on all of those as well. So you guys, we want to spread the love to everyone, to all women in Boston. So great. Well, thank you all for being here. It was so nice to see all of your faces. I miss you all so much, and I can't wait till we get to be together again. But I appreciate all of your virtual time as well. It's been a really wonderful night. Awesome.
Bye, thank you.
Bye, thanks.
Oh, thank you so much. That was great.
Yeah, no problem. I know sometimes I can get in my head and I was just like,